In the DynCorp harvest. In this series, we talk about how DynCorp here seems to find its way into trafficking, especially when they're doing police training in places like Bosnia, Kosovo, Haiti, Africa, and Iraq and Afghanistan. So today I'd like to talk about the southern border between U.S. and Mexico. They also have the contract for doing that. And I just believe that with their track record that we've shown here, that maybe that contract needs to come back under consideration and maybe bring in some competitors like Blackwater or other. Now I realize they've had their challenges, but they don't seem to have this sex trafficking challenge and this drug trafficking challenge that DynCorp seems to have all over Latin America and Africa. So with that, I just wanted to say, I don't know if you remember Pam Fleischaker from our email here, but you know, it's pretty apparent that John Podesta is kind of advertising in his office that, you know, he can get organs for people and they're masked and so forth. And the woman with the cake with people cutting their heart out, Nemkova here runs a Happy Hearts. The whole idea is we'll find another use for these hearts that are prisoners' hearts or that are people are going to die anyway, that sort of thing. So I just did a little research on Pam Fleischaker. She's actually quite a good advocate for women and the women's vote, and I respect that. Her husband's a producer. Not her husband. Her son Joey is a ESPN producer. But I did notice that in 2008, when she's 62 here, she's talking and she is making a statement about we should all go out to vote and, you know, et cetera. And then she says she's recovering at a New York hospital from heart transplant. That was 2008. Well, the email from this email was the 2005. So that means there was a second heart transplant. So what she has a genetic defect called HCM, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which basically is the heart. This is this is the thing that separates the heart in the middle of the septum, and this is the left ventricle. This gets swollen. It's like if you banged your thumb, it gets swollen, and then it reduces the size of the ventricle. You don't get the push that you need. Sometimes you get a closure here, right? So unbelievably, her son also has that, and it can cause death, sudden death, where it's totally without warning. So I could see why she wants the hearts, no question. And in the genes, in the DNA, it's only caused by one nucleotide being off. It's a single nucleotide disease. And anyway, you'll see this a lot in Hillary's emails, where she's kind of pushing this longevity, live forever, live well forever, this thing called CRISPR, which is like a virus, the way a virus inserts itself into the DNA, but basically it's a bacteria that munches a piece out of the DNA and then puts the correct piece in, which is pretty interesting and neat and a lot of excitement. There's a good TED talk on CRISPR, but it could mean designer babies even, you know, that long-held fear and dream. This situation with Devin Nunes, he was on the news today, so is Peter King, saying, you know, he was talking about the 9 hackers. Well, it wasn't really 9 hackers. It was 3 Muslim brothers. So they do this to kind of say those 9 hackers should be in jail to shard the responsibility. It was the 3 Muslim hackers making the 22 to 24 years old making $160,000 a year. That's who did it. That's the original news story that came out. Now it's trying to be sharded. What they really should do is say, look, you know, the Rosenbergs was a Jewish couple, you know, and they put them both to death by the electric chair. They should just say, look, I don't care what, deportation or whatever, but they need to be arrested and they need to have some kind of they need to answer for the crime in some way for leaking the information. First hacking the information, then leaking the information. Both are felonies. So, Espionage Act. So, same thing holding Assange on. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about the border. We've talked about the northern area of California where the Sheriff Lopez, the DynCorp sheriff. But this is kind of like down in the border. This is Alan Burson. He was the first border czar. He was supported by Janet Rito. They did this high-tech operation with called Operation Gatekeeper. It was kind of a high-tech fence, if you will. He went to the Rhodes. He was a Rhodes Scholar with Bill Clinton in Oxford in England, and he was a law student with Bill and Hillary at Yale. And then he was appointed by Barack Obama to be the chief of the U.S. Border Patrol in 2010. He was appointed on the recess, so the Republicans didn't like that, so they didn't renew him the next year. So I think he served 2 years at the Border Patrol. But then he got voted the vice president of the Americas for Interpol, International Policing Organization, and I think he's still at DHS. And there's been a couple controversies. The electronic components coming into the United States, for some reason he wants to redact the country that they're made in, and which, if that stuff, got into military gear, people not knowing what country it's from, and then it failed in a life or death situation, that may be a problem. So there's been some controversy to that. Electronics Week had an article about that. I cite it down below. And then there is another folks on the Border Patrol that have said back to me that there was a 1 year period at the San Ysidro border crossing in San Diego where he said no search for 1 year on trucks. I'm not saying drain the swamp here. I'm just saying change the guard. It's obviously a person with an open border policy. And as long as there's people on the Border Patrol that still think that there's an open border policy, you're going to have problems. So it's better to change the guard and signal to everyone in the Border Patrol that no more. We check everybody, we search everything, and we're trying to stop the contraband at the border. You see the FBI making a lot of crackdowns on sex stings lately. That's great. I applaud that. I just still think that I've been told again by more sources that the 650,000 emails are out there. I would encourage anyone who has those to get with someone and release at least the metadata. Even if you release 50 pieces of paper with the metadata, go to the library and just print off the first 50 emails or first 100 emails with just the metadata. You're not going to get in trouble for that. That's your duty as an American citizen. So that's all I'll say about that. And I'll just say I'm going to do some more work this afternoon with the human trafficking down here in Haiti. I saw Ashton Kutcher was testifying in front of McCain today about sex trafficking, and I just would have him add that we had an investigator down here, Monica Peterson, and she's dead, and we haven't sent anybody from the FBI down to find her. So that would be my suggestion. And that's it for this afternoon. And I'm on 2 radio shows tonight. One is the Hagman Report, or Hagman and Hagman, I guess, at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, and then Jeff Rentz at 7:30. Thank you.